This might sound a little crazy, but if you want your holidays, if you want your Christmas to be better this year, yes, 2026, you need to talk about them now. Not in November, now when everybody is exhausted in the midst of Christmas dinner. Now. And I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why. Even our 5-year-old knew how to do this better than most married adults. And I'll tell you that story in a minute. And I also want to show you how to prevent your marriage from getting to a place where one of you feels so overwhelmed that the other one ends up calling 911. That actually happened in my marriage. I'm not proud of it. We've learned a lot since then, and it wasn't because of a physical fight. But here's the thing. As a married couples coach, every January I hear the same thing from one married couples after the next. We said we wouldn't do this again, and then we did. The problem isn't that couples like you two don't care. It's that most couples don't debrief what just happened. They don't evaluate anything afterwards. And they don't plan ahead, nor do they execute on their plan. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've been married almost 20 years and I've been working with couples for well over a decade, so I would know. Marriage doesn't improve by accident. How you handle the holidays in your marriage will not improve by accident. It improves when couples learn early before resentment has time to build. And that's why this conversation matters, and it matters now. The first reason that you should talk about the holidays now is simple. You just lived it. It's still fresh in your mind. It's only been a few weeks, which means everything that happened or didn't happen is still right there. You remember all the things that stressed you out. You remember what made you feel unseen. You remember well what worked. You remember what you seemingly hoped for that would be different. You don't have to go digging deep to remember the good parts. And you don't have to go digging deep to remember the bad parts either. And this is where my 5-year-old comes in. She was about 5 or 6 at the time, not even in school yet. We were hosting her birthday party, right? Celebrating her birthday. And we had invited 12 friends, a mix of friends from daycare, neighbors, church friends, plus all the adults on top. About an hour into the party, she pulled me aside. She pulled me into her bedroom, closed the door. How respectful of her at that age, right? She looked at me straight in the eyes and she said, "Mommy, next year, can we not invite this many people? This is too many. It's too hard. I can't play with all of them." She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She wasn't melting down. She just noticed something wasn't working and she asked for a change while the information was still fresh in her mind. And what's wild is that she stuck with it. As she got older, she was able to explain why she didn't like that happening. It made her feel responsible for everybody having a good time when people didn't know each other, instead of being able to enjoy herself on her birthday. So we adjusted. To this day, we all know we don't mix groups of our friends. If a 5-year-old can do that, so can we, the adults. The second reason this conversation works now is because you're not in the middle of it anymore. Trying to talk about holiday stress smack in the middle of the holiday stress is a setup for failure. It's the same reason that you and I don't talk about what colors you want on your walls in the middle of a tornado or a hurricane. You're cooking, there's 4 pots on the stove already and something else in the oven. You're hosting, you're making sure everybody's good. You're managing the kids, all the cousins, all the neighbors that secretly made their way all the way into your living room to see what the commotion was. All this while you're running on no sleep. You're pulling dishes out of the dishwasher. You're cleaning up toys that somehow multiplied overnight. Somebody tell me how that happens. You're answering the door when you're not expecting anyone. You're trying to keep everyone happy. You tried to do it then. Of course, that conversation blew up. But now the fire's out. The wind's died down, your body, your mind is calmer. Now is when you can actually hear each other. This is when productive conversations happen, not when you're just barely surviving, holding on by a thread, but when you can actually really reflect together. Reason number 3, repeat what worked, change what didn't. This is where couples either grow or they repeat the same year over and over again, like Groundhog's Day. Here's what I want you to ask yourselves. Were there things that worked over the holidays? Things that made you feel connected? Things that reduced stress in a surprising way? Things you actually both enjoyed? If yes, do more of that. Use the same system. Go to the same place again. Use the same kind of schedule. Stay at the same all-inclusive or Airbnb if you loved it. Use the same boundaries. What worked once can work again. And if there were things that didn't work, don't ignore them, don't minimize them, and for crying out loud, don't assume that they'll magically feel better or be better next year. Make the adjustment, make a new plan, try something different. If hosting multiple groups in one day was too much, say that out loud. If out-of-town guests drained you because they had stayed for 2.5 weeks, bring that up. If being home for 2 straight weeks made you feel restless, plan a trip, go somewhere for a weekend. If date nights during the break helped you stay connected, repeat that and maybe add one on top. This isn't about blame, it's about designing holidays that actually work for your marriage and for your life. I know. I said there were 3. There's one more that I can't skip as to why you don't wait to have this conversation now. This is where the 911 call comes in. For years in my own marriage, holiday plans, or the lack of them, if you ask me, kept building quiet resentment. There was no notice, there was no conversation, no what do you want to do, last minute expectations. Here's what I mean. Picture me in my PJs on Thanksgiving Day, thinking we had no plans because I had not been told of any, being told at 11 a.m. or 12 o'clock that we needed to be somewhere at 2 p.m. and bring some dishes to share. For the longest time, I kept being upset with my in-laws for not giving us more notice. But in reality, later I found out it was my husband who wasn't passing on the information on to me. So I would show up to Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve with a chip on my shoulder so big everyone could see it all the way from the driveway. It was hard to hide. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to rock the boat, and it wasn't the right time, right? This was not the time to do it. The problem was later turned into weeks of me holding all of those things in. One night, after the kids fell finally asleep, that pressure spilled over in a way that made both of us stop in our tracks. After it blew up in our faces, we had a fight. I left the house on a really cold night, think -24 Celsius or -11 Fahrenheit. Just needing space to be alone, needing space to process, needing space to calm down. Walking helps with that too. When I didn't come back right away, my husband panicked and called 911, afraid for my safety, afraid that I'd frozen somewhere. Standing here now, I can tell you this. This is why you don't wait. Small frustrations piled up on top of medium or large-sized frustrations that aren't named early do not stay small. Do not let this happen in your marriage. Here's the thing. You cannot expect different results if you don't do anything differently. Hope is not a strategy. Never has been, never will be. Planning, on the other hand, is. And planning, guess what? It starts with a conversation. Early, calmly, and with intention. And if you don't know how to have a conversation or when to have it, here's a video that you can watch. But your holidays don't have to be something that you just barely survive. They can actually be something that you both enjoy. But that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because 2 people, the 2 of you, are willing to talk, are willing to plan, and are willing to learn from what just happened. Your next holidays, your next Christmas or Thanksgiving really can be different. And it starts now.